Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ram Stamps YouTube channel, and it's Jane here. Today I have got a colouring project to share with you featuring the adorable birthday scene creator stamps, and you can see I've printed a couple of them from the April release off onto one sheet of paper on my printer, but today I'm going to be focusing on this top image here. So what I've done is I've got the birthday girl from the creator set, and I have copied and pasted that into a Word document. And for the second girl, I've just flipped the image so they're a mirror of each other. I've then added some of the balloons from one of the other stamps in the release, and I've just moved those so that the girls are holding a balloon each, and then I've taken one of the numbers again from the new release, from the April release, and I've put that number 9 in each of the balloons. This is going to be for my twin nieces, who will be 9, unbelievably, on their next birthday. So I've just started out by cutting out an A2 panel around my scene. I've used Pink and Main's rectangle stitch dies. And what I'd like to do is incorporate some of this lovely pattern paper from the April release as well. So I'm just checking the colours in that pattern paper against my Copic colour chart. This is a free download from the Ram Stamps website. I'll link it below. It's an absolutely brilliant way of swatching all of your colours, and there are versions for Copic and Ohuhu's and whatever other markers that you use as well. So I'm just comparing the colours here and picking out which are the reds and pinks and which are the blues I'm going to use in my image, and just trying to match those up as closely as possible. So during the process, I will put the caps of my markers down onto my craft mat so you can see which colours I've used. But if it goes by too quickly, then I will list them all out below so you know exactly what colours I've used. And they will also be in the accompanying blog, which goes with this video. So in a second I will speed the video up and pop some music on, so you can just sit back and enjoy watching the colouring process. But before I do that, I'll just give you a quick explanation of how I'm doing my colouring. So as a general rule, when I'm colouring with my Copics, I tend to go from dark to light colours. So I'm going to start here with the dark colour in the places where you would expect there to be most shading. So if you imagine that the light source is at the front of this image, the darkest areas are going to be out towards the edges and in any kind of creases and crevices. So folds of clothes, areas of shadow underneath the chin, that kind of thing. So I'll be working from the darkest towards the lightest in the centre. I put a layer down of my darkest colour. Then I go to my medium colour, and generally I'll use about 3 shades of marker for each colour. Not always, sometimes it's less, especially if there's smaller areas, but as a general rule it tends to be around 3 shades. So you've got a dark tone, a mid-tone and a light tone. And in between each different shade I make sure to overlap them a little bit, and that's how you get a smooth blend, a smooth transition between the colours. So I will go from dark to medium to light, overlapping them, getting that nice blend. And then once I've put down my first layer of colour, I do tend to go back and add in a second layer. And the reason why I do this is because the lighter colours of Copic markers, they tend to bleach or kind of desaturate the darker colours, so that they're pulling some of that colour out. So you might lose a little bit of the intensity of colour as you're doing your blending and going over them with the lighter colours. So I'll go back in, add in some more of that darker colour just to get that intensity back, and then again go in with my mid-tone and then my lighter tone. And I find generally that 2 layers is enough to get the colour that I want. One other thing that I would say about Copic colouring is there is no right way or wrong way. This is my preferred method, to go from dark to light, but plenty of people like to put a layer of light colour down first and then go in with a darker marker, because saturating the page with that lighter colour they find helps them blend the colours more easily. So you do whatever works for you. Now at this point I got interrupted with my colouring, and when I came back to the desk I started to cut my pattern paper, but I forgot to film it. So I'm just showing you here what I've done. And basically I cut a rectangle out with the same stitched die that I used earlier, and I have just adhered a thin strip of that to the left and the right hand side of my panel. There wasn't a lot of room to add in the pattern paper given the size of the image, but I did really want to incorporate it, so just having that little strip on either side to tie in the colours of the image I think works really nicely. So I'm just going to continue with the colouring process here. I know I promised to put some music on, and actually all I've done is waffle since, but hopefully you're finding it helpful. So this is one of my favourite colour combinations for fair skin tones. It actually kind of dries back lighter than it's gone on, which you'll see at the end. And now I'm moving on to the hair, which can be one of the trickiest parts, I find, of colouring in an image. The way that I do it is again to start with my darker marker, and I flick the colour out towards the centre. I try and keep my Copic marker as upright as possible, because that way you can get the finest lines when you're colouring, and that just helps give that look of the kind of individual strands of hair. So I'll move from the darkest to the medium to the lightest, again as I did earlier. But with hair, I do tend to leave a small amount of white gap in the middle, so you don't have to fill in every single bit of the paper when you're colouring hair. And that I find helps it look a little bit more realistic, because usually when you've got light shining down on your hair, you do have that kind of bright band where you've got that sun reflection or light reflection on your hair. The other tip that I would give about colouring in hair is to go back after you've done the first colouring in and get that darker marker, and then just flick some individual hair strands back into it, just to reinforce that detail, which again can be lost once you start to add in the lighter tones. So I'm just moving on now to colouring the balloons, and I'm using kind of navy shades and bright pink, which is one of my favourite ever colour combinations, not just with Copic markers but in life generally. And then once I have finished the balloons, I move on to colour in the second girl character on the card. I've not filmed this bit because I have used exactly the same shades as with the first character. I have just done the opposite. So whereas the first girl has a blue top and a pink skirt, then I have done the second character with a pink top and a blue skirt, and so on. I'm interested to know if you have any siblings. Did your parents used to dress you the same? My parents didn't, probably thankfully, but I do inflict that on my two girls who are 4 and 6 years old, and I have to say I do buy them a lot of matching outfits. So to finish off my card, I'm just grabbing my trusty white gel pen. This is, if you're familiar with any of the colouring that I do, is always the final stage of any kind of Copic coloured image that I do. So I use a white jelly roll pen, and this is the size number 8, and I find that's just a nice thickness, and the gel pen really goes on quite smoothly, and it tends not to get clogged up like some other gel pens that I've used. So if you are looking for a good white gel pen, then that is definitely the one that I would recommend. And to add my gel pen highlights, I just aim for the areas that are the darkest, where we've put our darkest colours and where you would get the most shadow. And I tend to just do a long line followed by 2 small dots. And then I also like to do a few little dots in the middle of the rosy cheeks as well. So that finishes up the colouring for this card. So to turn it into my final card, I've grabbed some of these pre-printed sentiments from Simon Says Stamp. They are called reverse sentiments. This is the birthday set, and I'm just using my mini trimmer to trim out one of these sentiments. And this is a brilliant way of getting a quick sentiment on your card if you don't have the time to stamp or emboss something. So I'm just going to snip that down with my scissors. And then what I also tend to do sometimes is grab a black Copic marker as well and just go around the edges of the sentiment with that, because it's actually printed onto white cardstock, so the core is white. So occasionally, if I want it to kind of blend in with the background and not have that white showing up, then I will just run around the edge with my black Copic marker. So I've just popped a thin foam strip onto the back there, and I am just eyeballing where that sentiment needs to go, and that finishes up my card for today. So if you would like to see any more colouring inspiration from me, please do head over to my YouTube channel. I am Card Days Night, and also do check out the rest of the inspiration from the amazing design team over at Ram Stamps. So I hope to see you soon. Bye.